Hello, everybody. It's 9:36 p.m. Central Time. Sorry, I'm laughing. I got a little thing going on here. Anyway, it's 9:36 p.m. Central Time on the 1st of April, 2023. And I hope you're doing well. We are here to talk about seismic events. If you don't know where you are, we are on the Earthquake 3D live stream on Twitch, which I record and then put on YouTube for people to watch back. And if you're watching on YouTube, this is recorded, but it is before a live audience. You see them scrolling by on the left-hand side of the screen. We're going to turn off that and get a display capture turned on so you can see what I see ever so slightly better. And we're going to get a few things open. We'll get the USGS plate boundary map open, which we're going to be referencing throughout the rest of this update, and where the red lines are. So if you're a new viewer, just when you look at the screen and you see these red lines, I'm going to be referencing these throughout the rest of the update. Now, the earthquakes plotted out for the last 48 hours come from the USGS and the EMSC, Europeans who assembled the GeoFoam Potsdam and a bunch of other agencies together. Anyway, we're looking at multiple feeds combined to give us a good view of what has happened over the past 48 hours. The deep earthquakes are raised high off the globe, or the planet, and we look for the deep earthquakes, and the reason we look for the deep earthquakes is up above them, shallow earthquakes develop that are larger. So if we get deep 4s, we tend to see shallow 5s and 6s next to the deep quakes. If we get deep 5s, we can see bigger activity, shallow 6s and 7s. And if it goes any bigger than that, we can see a worldwide disturbance that takes place. In this case, we've got deep 4s. Deep 4s going up to right at the 5 threshold. So let's just call that a 5. It's a 4.9. But you'll see we have a letter D here. Letter D is a forecast area point where we look for new deep earthquakes to take place. Right around our letter D, of course, that's where our deeps are for the last 48 hours. Now going back a day, or last 24 hours, going back a day, 48 hours, our other letter D was hit, or right just north of it. Deep 4.3 to 4.5. So we have something going on down below the West Pacific. I'm going to get over here and show to you here. Here's the Indo-Australian plate boundary. And it goes between the Pacific and Indo-Australia. And along it, we have Indonesia, and you see it goes over to the east all the way to Fiji and down through New Zealand. It goes south of Australia. So looking south of Australia, down here we have our Dutch Sense logo. My underwater bases that come up to broadcast every few days. It rises up like that James Bond bass. Okay. Anyway, instead of classical music, it's vaporwave that plays. 5.6 and 4.8 down south on the plate boundary. It's a stair-step fracture zone, and we'll get back over and look at it here, right over here, south of Australia. Again, upper 5 level activity, I would call that, or mid-range to upper 5, 5.6 and a 4.8. If you add them together, it equals 5.648. And that you could round it up to a 5.7. Anyway, it's an upper 5 level activity down here to the south, on the south part of the Indo-Australian plate boundary. Going up and around on the north side, about the same sized activity took place. We have our deeps, and then up here, huge cluster of 4s, go back a day and a half, and boom, there's our earthquake in the middle, 5.5. Now, wouldn't you say a 5.5 is about the same size as the 5.6 down here to the south today? Again, it's two of the same size quakes spreading out on both sides of the plate boundary to the north. And if you just go straight up due south, that's where our others are. So we go around this side is moving, and then once we get to Indonesia, we branch up to the north, up to Japan. And Japan was hit. Japan was hit on land, but it's a magnitude under what we were looking for. Well, 2 spots were hit. First, the 6 came in. It was a magnitude under. I was looking for up to 6.9. I'm 300 miles off on this. So I'm 0.9 off on the magnitude and 300 miles off. I would almost consider that a full miss. However, now a new 5 struck directly in between the two on the west side of Japan. I don't know what's there. Haven't looked it up. Looks like it's just out in the ocean. But I would like to put the coordinates in over on Google Earth and just go see. Again, never hurts to look. We'll turn on our places and so forth so we can see if there are any volcanoes nearby as well. You know what? Hold on. There's a feature here I need to turn off. In case you guys don't know, my computer got hacked again. The new computer? Don't tell me to get antivirus and VPN. We already got that all taken care of. Some people with Sirius, whatever, came after and shut it down again. I'm on another computer now. Lost all my stuff. Had to re-download Google Earth and everything. Every file lost because there's no taking it over from the other PC. Anyway. So I got to go turn off the water feature in here, and that's going to take a minute. I'm not going to do that now. Just looking to see if we have any volcanoes nearby. They're over on land. I always look within 40 miles to see if there's a connection. Magma chambers can be that far off, even further, but in this case, we're going 60 miles or more to get to the nearest volcano, so we can just rule out any volcanic activity nearby. So then I start to zoom in and see, are there any other features here nearby that are on land that might stand out as odd? Any kind of big power plants or arrays of any kind, antenna arrays. Look for that kind of stuff. I don't see any of that just standing out. I don't see any large nuclear reactors along the shore. We do have, looks like refinery here, but I mean, refinery. They're all across the coast of Japan, and many cities have their own refinery depots along the shore. I mean, again, port cities all the way around. Okay, all right, so we don't have anything of any significance here nearby except for faults that I don't have names on. So I would lead it towards faults. It's not on the plate boundary. The plate boundary is 100 miles, 150 miles over to the east out in the ocean. Plate boundary over here, which means fault. Shallow fault zone movement. What is the depth on this? 17 kilometers. So 17 kilometer depth fault is in motion, pretty significant, 5.0 level on the west side of Japan, following our 6 up to the north, following our 5 down to the south. Wouldn't you say this new 5 is the middle, where the rings are all overlapping between all the quakes? Like if these were 3 pebbles thrown in a lake and the rings were all overlapping, wouldn't you say this would be the middle point? Again, it is. So the middle point has now been filled in with the new 5. The wave, standing wave, which I talk about in all my updates, I'm not going to waste your time showing it to you now. Standing wave is stuck in here between North Japan, going all the way up into Hokkaido, and south on the plate boundary, going across just next to Okinawa and over north of Guam or on the Izu Ridge. Something's going to break in the middle here still. Now we have to look where all the rings overlap again. That puts us off the coast to the southeast, right where the arrows are. Right at the tip of the arrow. So something, the combined total of everything all the way around it is going to strike, and if we have a 6 to the north and a 5.4 to the south and a 5.1 to the southwest and a 5 in the middle, add it all together, it equals about a 6.1. So a new 6 should be striking in here in the middle pretty soon, out in the ocean. Just as an example of one area to watch. Now that shouldn't be a shock because the rest of the plate is moving pretty much on that level. Like I said, upper 5 down here, mid-range 5 here. Stands to reason, should break in the middle again over in Japan. Okay, now let's go across into Asia. Check it out. Look across China. So going across the plate boundary up out of Indonesia, I'll get back and show you this. This is going to make sense in about 1 second. Coming off of the Indo-Australia plate boundary, going up into China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, all this moving up here across this landmass, all in the same magnitude, in the same day. So we're looking at about 24 hours, maybe just a little bit more. Here's 48, here's 24. So 48 doesn't really add too much more to it. You can see it, it's all in the mid-range 4 level. Once we get into the plate, we go down just a little bit, down to 4, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and out along the edge of the plate boundary, we're at 4.6 to 4.7. 4.6 and 4.7 were the topic of my discussion in my last video. Nothing's changed there. We're still bouncing around with this 4.6 to 4.7 wave, the standing wave. And you can see it, the spacing, somewhat equidistantly spaced across this uneven mass, going all the way down to the Gulf of Aden. What's in the Gulf of Aden? Here, look. The plate boundary on the west side, plate boundary on the north side, plate boundary on the far north side, and on the east side. Now, do you see it? It's going all the way around the outside edge back down here to where the red arrow is. And what's there where the red arrow is? Down in Indonesia. Back down and around to here. All of this into the landmass in motion in a day on a mid-range 4 level. And you can carry that out. Let me back it out a planet away. In 1 day's time, this is what's moved. So, gee, I wonder where we're moving. We're moving from Japan all the way down south of Australia, all the way west, going all the way over to here, where we get to Iran. What's in South Iran? Well, our earthquakes, of course. Now, I just showed you the one in the Gulf of Aden. What's up in Iran? Check it out. Plate boundary again, but now we're going one plate over. We're heading over towards Turkey at this point. This is Saudi Arabia, of course, its own separate plate. But the same sized earthquakes are spreading out over the west. 5 and a 4.1. We get back over to Europe. Let's get rid of all the smaller earthquakes really quick. Oh, weird. Wow. Boy, my Earthquake 3D is doing some weird stuff there. Okay. So we go over into Turkey and, well, I'll be darned. Look. 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. Going over to the Aegean Sea, the 4.8. But wouldn't you say the 4.6 and 4.7 in Turkey are about the same size as the 4.6 and 4.7 over here at Nepal? And about the same size as the 4.6 to 4.7 going over here into China? And about the same size as the 4.5 to 4.6 over here at Taiwan? Yes, they are all the same size. Once we get into the plate, we take a half magnitude to less step down. Same thing in Europe. We go down to 4 to 4.1 once we get up into Austria. So let's recap. A line of the same-sized earthquakes spreads out from the West Pacific around the outside edge of the Indo-Australian plate, focuses back in on South Iran on the plate boundary, and comes rolling in here to Turkey, where then it spreads back out across Europe. Now look where all the rings overlap. All the rings, if you take all the earthquakes in the last 2 days and take them into account, they all somewhat overlap on Istanbul, going south along the plate boundary. Oh wait, you didn't know this. The red line. Istanbul is up here, or maybe you did know this. Istanbul is up here where all the rings are overlapping, and south is the red line again. But the red line this time is between Africa and Europe, not the Indo-Australian plate and the Pacific. But the flow is still the same. It's going over to the west, and lo and behold, over in Greece, we get a new 5. Now, there's some debate on that, whether it was a 4.8, a 5. My warning expires tomorrow. Technically tonight. Tonight at midnight, but tomorrow, it's already tomorrow European time, so I just wait till tomorrow night at midnight. Tomorrow night, my 10-day warning for Greece expires. I had a warning going for an upper 6 to low 7 to strike here at Ionia, at the Ionian Sea. A 5 hit down south, 200-something miles south of where we warned, 210, 220, something like that. But it's just a 5. A 4 struck up in Austria, completing our warning for Austria and Croatia completely. We had warned them for a 4 directly at Croatia, which is, I measured, it's 75 miles off. We had warned right here, and more rare earthquake, somewhat doesn't get hit very often. Anyway, so the big earthquake, though, where is it? We're down to the last day again, and nothing's hit. So if we get to tomorrow at noon my time, 12 hours from now, basically, and nothing's hit, it is a 10-day miss for me on a big earthquake. Now, the other locations got hit. Japan, I already showed you the 6s there, and south at Chile got hit within the magnitude where we had warned. We had warned for up to a 7. Same for up in Japan, 6.1 or whatever it is, 6 to 6.1, and we warned for up to 6.9. This is the spot that hasn't moved, the one that I'm looking for, the big earthquake that'll affect everybody. We're down to the last day, less than the last day, half of a day. Now, if we get beyond, if we get to day 11, and the big earthquake hits in Turkey, okay, that's the earthquake we're looking for. I don't go much beyond a day or two. So I don't give myself weeks or anything like that. I won't come back 2 weeks from now if an earthquake hits there and be like, that's the earthquake. But if a huge earthquake hits 2 weeks from now in that spot, I mean, most likely that would be the earthquake we were looking for, but forecasting-wise, It hasn't helped at all to know. Okay, anyway, so nothing's hit. Counting my chickens before they hatch. I do this regularly. There's many times where we get right down to the last minute, and the earthquake we're looking for hits. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see an upper 6 to low 7 in Turkey right out here in the ocean. But it stands to reason it should hit. The rest of the area has shifted. We've shifted out of Turkey. We've gone over to the west. How do I know that? Look at the earthquakes. 5 down at the border of Crete going into the Mediterranean, and 4 up in it right at Austria. Between the two, that's the spot that we're watching down in Turkey. Down in Greece. Okay, let's recap one more time. Deep earthquakes down below the West Pacific, spreading out across all sides of the Indo-Australian plate, heading up towards Japan, heading out towards Europe. Nothing's changed. The flow is staying the same, even though apparently they said the core of the Earth changed rotation, whatever that means. As we go across over into Central and South America, I mentioned it, a mid-range 6 struck down here right at our arrow, right at our warned area, Bio Chile just to the north. Travels underneath Point Bio is just down south, but there we go, 6.3. We warned you for up to 6.9. Next stop is down on the plate boundary down at the South Sandwich Islands, where the X is. Let me show you on the plate boundary map. Coming out from up here, going down to here, bypassing the bend in the plate, going underneath, and coming back up with a new similar-sized earthquake. A new mid-range 6 down at the South Sandwich is due. On the north side, up here at Central America, where all the rings overlap, that goes into Guatemala. We have Guatemala, South Mexico here. I have a warning going for the next 4 to 5 days. I issued it 2 days ago in my last video. Central America needs to be on watch at El Salvador, which is just south of Guatemala. And let me show you on the USGS map. Here is Central America, just south of the United States. And we have the plate boundary that goes over to the east. So in here, I have the warning going, and it could go up to 6.3. Just like the rest of the plate, just like the rest of the planet, we're all going into the mid-range 6 level on all sides. Up to the north we go. We have a stepping stone path of earthquakes leading over to the Aleutian Island chain. This is a change from where we were. There were no earthquakes out in the Aleutian. However, I've got a warning going up here in Alaska. Here, south of Anchorage, going down to the plate boundary for a new 6 to strike. That goes for 5 more days as well. New development in Alaska in the last few hours. In the last day. 3's out in the ocean and 3's up on land. The 3's on land go next to the Selawik Hills, which are ancient volcanic features. In case you don't know, there's volcanoes up in Alaska on land, not just out in the Aleutians. I just want to see how close we're going, so let's go put the coordinates in. It's a swarm outbreak. It does not mean this thing's going to erupt. But if we jump up to a volcano, I want to go look at it, see how close we are. Okay. Selawik Hills. There we go. Selawik Hills are right here, and that's pretty far. That is pretty far from the center of the volcanic feature, but I just want to measure and see. 150 miles. I normally look 40 miles, but this whole thing is an ancient volcanic field that goes all the way over to here. So really, I need to measure from the edge. From the edge, it's 60 miles. It's just beyond what I would consider to be related to the volcanic field directly. Now, I would think Mother Nature has punched holes in the plate all throughout there. And while Selawik Hills is marked, likely there are others that are out there as well right next to it that are not. If not, plate fracturing, faulting, next to the volcanic field. That's why we've gone there as opposed to anywhere else. Now, I'd look, again, south of Anchorage, down to the plate boundary for a new 6 to strike in the next several days. And it's been a while. It's been months. Down to the south we go, and we're on both sides of the outside of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Started moving today. Mid-range 4s, nothing to be alarmed about. But if you take the other 4 into account from the day before, this was a 4.8, by the way. USGS, crazy downgrades, whatever. You'll see that the whole coast of the United States, going up to Canada and down south through California, has moved on a 4.0 basis. Let me show you really what moved, or what really moved. Up here to the north, There's our 4.1 to 4.2 up to the north next to Vancouver. North side of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Middle point, right at the pinnacle tip, if you will, of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone, the westernmost point. And then all the way down here, down south in Southern California. Now that's the San Andreas, where it meets the Imperial Fault. So, north, middle, south, all the way along the coast. And it's all in the 4.0 range, and it's all in about 24 hours. So a new wave equal to 4.0 range of energy has now inundated the west coast of the United States. This is going to go into the edge of the craton. It already has. We go over to Idaho. Was hit last night by a 4. They downgraded it to a 3.6. Didn't I warn Idaho? Did I warn Idaho? Man, I need to start writing this stuff down. Pretty sure. I'm being sarcastic. Yes, we did warn Idaho, and we warned them for up to 4.9. And a 4 hit, and they downgraded it to 3.6. A 5 hit up here to the north. They downgraded it to a 4.6. This is a regular occurrence on the downgrades. Anyway, central Idaho started to move right above the magma chamber for Yellowstone as expected. Yellowstone was already swarming. I brought that up in my last update. Now let's go in and look at the west coast, go look at the rest of the quakes, going down into the interior of the plate through California. Coming in from the northwest, we're up in Washington State. Now, up in Washington State, we have a branching of earthquakes. You can kind of see it here. Let me turn off the numbers. Kind of makes like a Y, upside down Y shape or a V shape, going down along the coast and over to the east, following our arrows. Arrows point over to the east because that's the way the earthquakes flow, observed over time. So our biggest of the bunch, 3.6, striking above the deepest part of the magma chamber for Yellowstone, which comes up to the surface over here at the park, where we're swarming. Swarming at the park, going down below into the plate, up above the magma chamber, a new 4 broke out. And that's within the magnitude of what we're looking for. And I stand by it. You can downgrade it all you want, but if you go over and check our origin page magnitudes for local magnitudes, and we go down the list and we start seeing 4s on the list, they have to toss out the high end and toss out the low end. And the way we do that, we toss out the high end and low end. That leaves us with like a 4. And it matters. It really does. If you downgrade it beyond reasonable doubt, or reasonable levels, it creates doubt. Now, the other locations up here in Washington, I've looked up previously. You guys are welcome to check on this. We're down at Mount St. Helens again. Now, I'll just pull the earthquake in the middle, and you're welcome to pull the rest to see that we're all around it. But a picture speaks 1,000 words, so let's show you the spot that's moving in Washington. Do not be alarmed. It does not mean we're going to erupt. We're on the side of Mount St. Helens. Well, really, we're on Marble Mountain, if you really want to look at it. Here's Marble Mountain, the old Ice Age volcano here. But everybody knows about the one right next to it, which erupted in 1980 and in the early 2000s, 2007 or 8, this thing put off a huge ash plume. But it wasn't a huge eruption. It was just a big ash plume from a small vent which opened on the rising dome that's at the center of this thing. After it blew in 1980, it started rising with a new dome. It'll eventually grow and blow again. That's not going to happen now, don't worry. You would have thousands of small earthquakes there if there was. That would be fracturing actual, on top of the harmonics that would happen with all their stations that would pick it up, and probably sulfur dioxide would be coming out. Up to the north, we're at Mount Rainier. We're down below the crater of Mount Rainier. Just like we're right next to Mount St. Helens, we're quite literally down below the volcano that everybody in the Northwest knows about, Mount Rainier. You can see it from downtown Seattle. It's a beautiful peak off in the distance. Now, down below that peak is this earthquake. Don't be alarmed. Again, it's not a sign of an eruption. It's a sign of a wave traveling through, and that's why it's splitting there. It's splitting back up here and going 2 directions. One down towards Yellowstone and over to the edge of the craton. The other sticking along the coast. Down to the south we go. Down to Government Camp, Oregon. What's here in Oregon? Well, same thing that I just showed you up in Washington. Another volcano. Mount Hood this time. So there's 3 volcanoes getting hit if you don't count Yellowstone. If you count Yellowstone, that's 4. 4 volcanoes all showing small earthquake activity all at once in the same day as an arrival of a wave is taking place. And you can see there's an arrival of a wave with multiple 4s out to the west, out here on this, on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Now those jagged edges belong to the Pacific. So any flow that's coming in, you can see the spacing on this is like a wave in an ocean going across the edge of a flood wall. The distance on this between the earthquakes, once we get into a jagged edge area, there's a higher frequency, but the spread is still almost perfect going down along the coast. This is on the USGS map, no less. 24 hours. It looks like a garbled mess on here because of all the numbers. Turning off the numbers, you can start to see at least that there's a spread that heads over to the east and around the edge of the craton. Both sides of California, bypassing the middle, going on both sides. East and west, making lines of earthquakes no less that point in certain directions. And they pop off in certain directions, going down to the south. Now let's show you. So, 1s and 2s, 0s, 1s, and 2s show it. A line of earthquakes coming out of the Juan de Fuca, breaking and going around California in 2 directions, almost like it's a rock in a river. One path of quakes going down along and over to the east. The other path of quakes following the San Andreas, going down and going over into the valley. We're jumping off the San Andreas in like a dead end almost, like dead ending and going over into the valley. Then we pick back up at the southeast tip of the valley. And the same sized earthquakes coming in, go down, cross, and over. And they come back together right here on the Garlock Fault. Then like a zigzag, go back down and over to our noteworthy earthquake of the bunch that hit, which was a 4 point what? Again, it was a 4.8. Now, do I need to look up the locations is the question. Do I need to prove to everyone here that, for instance, do I need to prove to all the new viewers and all the professionals and everybody that there are oil pumping operations at the spot we're jumping over to off the San Andreas, like a derailed train? Going down the San Andreas, we jump over to oil pumping operation. Then we go down beyond and pick back up on the fault. It's like it's being redirected, the flow being redirected over into the oil pumping operations in the valley. But do I need to prove it? Because pictures prove it. I will prove it. But first, let's go look up the larger of the earthquakes, the 3 that struck up here in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And I would just like to examine the area around it, see if there's anything there worth mentioning. You know, what's been missing lately are the explosions on the West Coast. We aren't seeing too many explosions get reported. All right, backing it out, anything here worth mentioning or looking at? Now, I do recall a previous earthquake which struck, but that was further up the coast, up here, at our abandoned star fort that's been turned into a satellite array and recycling center. And this really is a north, south, east, and west old 250-foot high bastion fort that's been forgotten about, and in the center is the satellite array. So somebody knows. But anyway, we found that last time. I have to go here and see, is there anything of any similar significance here nearby? Any weird circular structures built on purpose that if they seem to be hiding something? Let's just go in and see. What do we have going on here? What is this? Is that a house? It's got a parking lot. Maybe I need to turn on our gallery. Uh-oh, what do we got going on here, guys? What is this place? The zoo. The zoo. We're below the zoo. Are you kidding me, dude? Okay. All right. Now, they had to have built this thing into one of these. They had to. I guarantee it. There's got to be one here. They wouldn't build a zoo just anywhere. Clorox Foundation, of course. Of course. Up on top, there's a look, there's the circle on. I hate finding stuff like this, guys. This just opens up so many more questions than you could ever possibly answer. Okay, so we got the golf course, we got the zoo, we got Clorox Foundation, and we got a circular thing at the top of the hill. The only thing missing is something directly in the middle of it that would just be super suspicious. You know, some standout thing. Oh, you mean a Clorox Foundation thing isn't suspicious enough? Clorox Foundation. Yeah, it's because you're going to whitewash everything. Ba-dum-bumps. Hashtag Tartaria. All right. Earthquake below it. That's the only way I find these places. That's the only way I find them. I wasn't into this topic. I never knew about Bastion Forts, Star Forts, Tartaria. I did find out about Tartaria differently, but on the Bastion Fort thing, I would have never noticed this stuff without the earthquake striking down below them. All right. I said I was going to prove oil pumping operations. We got really sidetracked there, class. I apologize. And I am going to start treating this more like a class than I have been. You know, I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to kind of stop the broadcast here and just do something. Okay, we come down the San Andreas. See, here's the San Andreas. We jump over into the valley with a small quake. It doesn't really, you would normally just say, oh, one. But then, when you zoom in on the area, and you see there's tens of thousands of drill points at this spot, all down here, right along the San Andreas, then you understand the wave that's coming down this disturbance, this electrical disturbance it might be a electrical or VLF in the ground, gets directed down this way at an angle down towards the Garlock Fault that's right here. And we impact into the Garlock Fault at our other hidden frac sites. I would call these hidden because you really have to go looking to go find them. To our other drill points. That's where we jump down to. So we go off like a derailed train. We go off the San Andreas here, jump over, go down to here. Now, same time going along the California-Nevada border, we have a series of the same-sized earthquakes going right up to the 3.0 range, and we dead end instead of into pumping operations, we dead end into our nuclear test sites down here to the east by southeast, the nuke sites. They're not doing nukes there now. But I would propose to you that the nuke sites have something in common with all those tens of thousands of drill points. First of all, have you seen the nuke sites? Take you out here and show you. Here's Doomtown, the famous where they blew it away on the surface. But all of these are our underground nuke test sites here. They go on for miles. So what do they have in common with the drill points over along the San Andreas? They're fracture points in the crust that humans created. The wave seeks out a weak point in the plate. And there we go. Now, I said I was going to talk about something, and I really do want to bring this up because I'm actually embarrassed, quite frankly. And this is going to get real serious for a second, and this is not an April Fool's joke, even though today is April 1st. And this has to do with me joking around, though, which is why I'm talking about it today. I'm an incredibly offensive jerk. Sometimes. And I didn't really realize it. My self-awareness factor is like, I don't know. I probably measure it on one of those little scales they would use to measure some cannabis or something. Like, a few grams at the most. It's my self-awareness factor when I'm joking around in here, when I'm talking for hours on end to what I would consider to be my class, when I'm teaching seismic. Let me give you an example of what I'm embarrassed of. So, for instance, an explosion would be detected as an earthquake up here out in Oregon, for instance. And I'd open up, see this? Oregon, explosion, 2.2. And I'd open it up and I'd crack a joke about, I don't know, Bubba out there in the back country with some tannerite. And that's must be what we're seeing here, exploding, and that's why we're getting all these explosions. All right, and then I cracked a meth lab joke, too. And that's incredibly offensive. It is. Now, you all know what I mean when I'm saying it. You know I'm joking, even. But for all the people who live rural, and I'm not talking about super sensitive people either, guys. If I zoomed in on the inner city and zoomed in and said such and such, and made a joke about a name and said this is so-and-so from the inner city, that would be wrong to joke about that. Now, let me give you another example where I've been incredibly offensive and I'd like to apologize to everybody. Over here in Europe, to my French viewers, my German viewers, even to my Russian viewers. When I'm reporting on the earthquakes and I bring up Siberia, Russia, and I say Siberia, Russia in a fake Russian accent, I'm joking around. I'm trying to have fun. I am not aware enough to realize that that's going to alienate a shit ton of people who are here for earthquake information and learn to speak English. Took the time and trouble to learn to freaking speak our stupid language. And I'm making fun of them because their accent. You know, it's funny. Let me give you another example where nobody had a problem with me making fun of them except for the people who live there. The French. Here's me, tremblement de terre. I put on my French accent like I'm some kind of cartoon or something. What a douchebag. And that's me, and I'm using a French word appropriately to describe myself. How about my British viewers? Or my Scottish viewers? Or my Irish viewers? So let me take the time to apologize to the Irish, Scottish, and British, French, German, and Russian, Chinese, which I can never say proper, Chinese. People thought I was saying shy. Guys, I'm from the Midwest United States. Let me apologize to the hillbillies, the rednecks, and the Hoosiers here in the Midwest, who I also made fun of. Let me apologize to my Texas viewers for singing "The Stars at Night Are Big and Bright." And I even did I did it, deep in the heart of Texas. I did it. I'm sorry. And I'm seriously sorry. I'm not joking sorry. I know today is April 1st. But I'm serious. Look at all the people I freaking offended. All the people out here in California, Oregon, and Washington. I'm sorry for calling you stupid, stinky hippies. Which I did. And I've got family that lives out there. They know I'm joking. But it's not funny. Or is it? So I offended everybody I'm serious now. So I offended everybody in Washington, Oregon, and California. Nevada, when I said Nevada, I was trying to say it proper. To all my redneck, Hoosier, and hillbilly viewers in Tennessee. This is correct now. This is correct. Rednecks in Missouri, Hoosiers in Indiana, and hillbillies down in Tennessee. I am sorry. Let me get a sip of my coffee. Not done yet. To my southern viewers, y'all. Guys, I said y'all. I don't normally say y'all. I'm sorry. I was making fun of your accent. Don't worry, I'm going to get to myself in a second. To all the people who are over on the East Coast, when I was saying don't park the car, park, I'm sorry. I'm a jerk. I was joking. But I freaking have offended everybody on the planet. I was telling my wife, I go, you know what? I didn't offend the people in Africa because I didn't do the clicking thing. With my tongue, I didn't do why not, though? I mean, I'm sorry for inappropriately rolling my R's in trying to pronounce Spanish words. I can't roll my freaking R's. And I tried, and I offended people. I'm not joking. I really did. And I'm sorry. I did not mean to. I was trying to do something funny and trying to do something. So look, I've offended every single people on the planet. Oh, Australians. Guys. First of all, I'm sorry for saying Aussie. Secondly, I'm sorry for saying Aussie. Third, I'm sorry for saying get your prawns off the Barbie. Fourth, I'm sorry for making fun of the Bogans. 5, I am a Bogan. Now this gets me into me. Hello, where we speak proper English, right? This is Bob Costas and George Norrie from proper St. Louis, Missouri, where we speak, what do you call it? Plain English. We're the biggest douchebags in the entire Midwest. Speaking for myself. So, I made fun of the Canadians. Molson's, Dude. So I'm an equality punk. Here's the deal. Imagine this scene in your mind. Me, teenager. I'm 47 now. Me, teenager. Bright red mohawk. 2 feet long. Exploited shirt or crass subhumans. Spike-studded leather jacket. Old worn-out Docs or something. Doc Martin boots, if you don't know what those are. Punk rock, okay? And not only punk rock, but an anti-racist punk rock, which is called an equality punk. There's me with my Circle E and my anarchies all over my freaking shit on my skateboard. Then I got a car. It became crass bumper stickers on my old beat-up car. Anyway, we used to fight Nazi skinheads. They used to come to the shows and beat up the girls and cause all kinds of problems, the Nazis. And the skinheads. We didn't like that. We're for equality. For everybody just having nobody messing with each other. Nobody talking shit about each other. Nobody being rude about each other or making fun of each other about the way they talk or the way they look. Because as punkers, you're all made fun of because of the way you look. So, I mean, are you going to pick on the people the way they look or the way they talk? Now, this all gets me back to April Fools. So me, thinking I'm funny, poking fun at the Russian thing, nobody knew I was joking when I said that Russia is better. Now, if you're a longtime viewer of mine, you know, yeah, I'm joking about Agent Dutch and blah, 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 and I'm joking. People took it serious. They called me a traitor. I was talking about some stupid stuff. So I'm sorry if I have been offensive without knowing that I'm being offensive. When showing Scotland and using a Sean Connery accent, that's stupid, and I won't do it again. And when mentioning France, I'm not going to be saying we and Tremplement to Terry. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to learn how to properly say much love in as many languages as I can. And not say it in some kind of foreign language, but to say it in my stupid, broken, slang American English. So I'm sorry if I've offended anybody over these years. I went back and I really am embarrassed by it because, while I'm intending to try and get your attention, you know, I'm zooming in on France and I want to reach the people in France, and I sure as hell am not going to do it by impersonating their frickin' accent. That's so stupid. Again, me trying to be funny, stupid. I've been doing this too long live for too long. And you lose perspective. There's a reason nightly news broadcasters are not joking around like that. Because there's going to be a segment of the population that's going to hear that and not understand that you are joking. And even if you are joking, they're not going to think it's funny. And me at 47 years old, hindsight 2020, I just became self-aware today on that. It's sad. But this is a true apology, and I won't do it again. I promise. So, buzzkill, right? Jeez. All right. People say I'm being too hard on myself. If I'm not, who's gonna be? What do you want? You want a troll to be? I mean, look, if you don't hold yourself to a higher standard, are you gonna let some troll do it for you? Everybody always rejects what trolls say because they're so mean about it, right? Like, Turns out they could be a lot meaner about it than what I'm saying about myself right now. Anyway, back to the whole thing. Sorry for making fun of Bubba out there with the tannerite for the explosion. And the meth lab comments, because we know that was flamed up by the media on the West Coast. There's probably only a few, which you would expect anywhere. Anyway, the world's gone serious, so, I gotta be a little bit more serious too. I can't be joking around about the Russians either. You know why. Although it would be accepted now. Bashing Russians would probably be accepted now, but that'll change. I would encourage everybody to be loving to each other. And if you find yourself doing something wrong, that you identify it yourself before anybody else does. And that you take the appropriate measures to fix it. And if that means getting on to 100,000 people or however many people end up watching this video and apologizing to you, then so be it. I've never seen anybody else do it. My wife's like, are you sure? I'm like, dude, this is going to be epic. She's like, don't beat yourself up too hard. I go, look, man. I could tell everybody all the things I've really said that are bad throughout the years. But they're just as bad as the things that you've all said throughout the years. So you can just imagine what I've said. Just whatever you've said, just kind of maybe times it by 2, maybe, But I'll apologize for myself and anybody else who wants to press 1 and say they're sorry too for doing almost the same thing. As a matter of fact, you can. Your screen name will show up on the left-hand side of the screen. If you're also sorry for offending people, for saying rude things and doing stupid impersonations and everything else throughout your life, you can press 1 in the chat room now. Okay. Don't press any other numbers, guys. Okay, anyway, all right. At 10:23 p.m. You know what? A good way to end this is, oh, hey, hold on. An earthquake just hit. Hold on. A 3 hit down here at Kangaroo Island, down here in Southeast Australia. So down here in Southeast Australia, we're right next to Kangaroo Island, just northwest of Melbourne. And it's been moving for the last was that last week? It's been moving for a week or more since our 4.8 earthquake struck down here to the south by southeast. And you got hit down by Perth. I'm looking for Perth to move on a 4.0 basis. And instead, we got this down to the south of Perth. So it looks like I'm wrong. I was looking for this right here between 4.8 to 5.6 to hit here. And instead it hit south. But now you're moving back down to the east-southeast, so that means Perth is going to get hit again. Again, I probably should just look down to the south again on the plate boundary. We should maybe even go look up this earthquake, but at a different time. I don't want to waste anybody's time looking up 3.0 quakes out Southeast Australia. So anyway, there it is. Again, I hate to be a buzzkill. Let's wrap this up with telling you to have an earthquake plan. That's not a buzzkill, right? You need to have an earthquake plan. You need to do it, man. Do it as fast as you can. Little prose poetry. Is that prose? What is that? It's not rapping. See, okay, there we go again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to offend somebody, all the poet society, All right. I'm one big politically incorrect mess. Unfortunately, I was chosen by the universe to bring earthquakes to you. Go figure, right? What else aside from an earthquake plan should you have? Class? How about an emergency kit? Food and water, change of clothes. The food and water thing, though, that's crucial. You should have learned that in the last couple of years anyways, with all the lockdowns and everything else that happened. It's a good idea to have a nice little supply of food and water, and then have some of that in a bag ready to go. Especially the food. With the water, you should probably have pumps or purification. That'll be lightweight, more lightweight than carrying around water with you. The food can be prepackaged. The clothes should be seasonal specific, of course. You change it every few months, maybe twice a year, update your emergency kit to have the seasonal specific clothes that you might need. Flashlight, batteries, an ID, extra set of keys. Sanitation, first aid. Dude, it's a checklist. So annoying. And you need one. And you'll use it at some point for something. You will use it either for severe weather, you will use it for flood evacuation, you'll use it for a fire evacuation, or you might even just use it because you've lost your keys and you can't find them, and you've got an extra set in the emergency kit, which it is an emergency if you lose your keys, right? Little things, the little things. Also little things, a set of shoes or hard-bottom slippers by the side of your bed. In case something happens in the middle of the night. It might not even be an earthquake. Could be a fire or something else. A break-in, anything. Power goes out. Things are broken on the floor, whatever it is. That you need to have those hard-bottom shoes or slippers. Simple. It's so simple. You already got them. Why not put them by the side of your bed? You can fumble around for them even if it's dark. But if an earthquake hits and there's broken stuff across the floor, glass and other things, and it's dark, the power is out, and you don't have shoes, I always think of Bruce Willis in the movie Die Hard when Hans Gruber, which I almost just did Hans Gruber's German accent, Hans Gruber, and they shot out all the glass, and there it is across the floor, and he doesn't have shoes on. I know it's a movie, but I just think of that when I think about broken glass across the floor after an earthquake. And if I didn't have shoes on, what would I do? You know, in that movie, he could have taken some of those plastic binders off the freaking desk and just, there's some pocket envelopes in that freaking office. I guarantee it, man. He could have put his feet in pocket envelopes and scooted across the floor. I don't know. Too much logic. You don't want to watch a movie with me. I'll be doing that the whole movie. All right, that's a great place to end it. You guys ever watch movies with people who do that? It's so annoying. I'm one of them. 10:28 p.m. Hey, this is the Mea Culpa. This is the Dutch Synth's magnum opus Mea Culpa. Or Mea Culpa magnum opus. What would we call it in French? All right, guys. Okay, all right. 10:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm out of here. You guys be safe. Much love. And I will not offend you anymore except for on seismic topics, in which case I'm only going to be offending seismologists. We'll reduce it down to a very fine group of people. Be safe.